Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carine Umuhumuza, and I'm the Associate Director of Communications here at Devex. And joining me live from the content studio is Sadof Alexander, who is a digital content assistant at the One campaign. Sadof, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so excited to have you here. So tell us a little bit about what the One campaign does.
So the mission of the One campaign is to combat extreme poverty and preventable diseases, which is the main mission that we have, but of course there's so much that goes into that. So we have discussions around education access, women's empowerment, all these different variables that affect how the things that people deal with when in extreme poverty. And most of our work is central to Africa. And right now, one of the big things we're doing is our Poverty is Sexist movement.
Yes. Very cool hashtag.
Yeah, definitely a hashtag worth following.
Yes.
So we do a lot of work specifically about how women are affected by poverty and how it affects the way that they live. And of course, our mission isn't solely on that, but that has been a big emphasis for us recently.
Absolutely, and that's definitely one of the things we first talked about in the opening plenary. It was a ton of awesome women champions. So tell us a little bit about what brings you to Devex World this year, particularly.
So I'm a digital ambassador for Devex World,
Yes.
which has been absolutely incredible. I've been taking lots of pictures for our social media, and when the event is over, I'll be writing a blog about the experience, which is already proving to be a bit of a challenge. There's so many incredible things that are happening here.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening,
Yeah.
so it's just a matter of narrowing down what the focuses are going to be, and that's going to be quite the mountain to climb, but I think no matter what, it's going to be a really great piece and something that our audience at One and the Devex World audience will both really enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're halfway through the day. What are kind of the most interesting ideas or innovations that you've kind of heard throughout the day?
So I went to a couple of flash talks that were relevant to women's health issues. There was a flash talk on FGM and child marriage,
Yes.
and a second one on how HIV affects girls and women. And those have been really incredible to witness because it's bringing light to very, very serious issues that I think don't get talked about often enough.
Absolutely.
And it's coming directly from people who are affected by it, which I think is incredible to give people agency over that narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually one of the things Jaha Ducre was talking about. She's talking about how for women who are fighting FGM, it's not a career choice, it's like a life thing. Like this is, no matter what happens, like this is something that they're fighting for their entire lives. So I know there's a ton of global dev celebrities running around. Who have you seen so far, and how can we find them?
So the First Lady of Afghanistan in the opening plenary, that was
definitely. Is it too early for Women Crush Monday? Women Crush Wednesday?
It's never
tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
Yeah, it's never too early. We're going to start today, and she's definitely it. The talk that she gave was just so inspiring, and I hope to see her around the conference later again.
Yes, I heard there's a rumor that the ambassadors want to get a selfie with her. We're going to try to make that happen.
I would love for that to happen.
We're definitely going to try to make that happen. So if you're following on Twitter, make sure that you find that. So where are you headed next to this afternoon, and kind of what are you looking forward to talk about this afternoon?
So I'm going to be attending a couple more flash talks.
Okay.
One about food aid.
Okay.
Which that one I'm really excited for, to see new ideas of how food aid can be restructured. I think that's going to be really interesting. There's a talk on data revolution that also looks really fascinating. So there's so many different events going on for the rest of the day. It's really hard to pick which ones to go to.
Yeah, it's a matter of kind of popping in and popping out of different sessions.
Yeah, but there's definitely a lot to see, and I'm sure no matter where I end up throughout the rest of the day, that's going to be a great experience.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about a digital content associate and an assistant. What does that job kind of mean, and how did you kind of plan out your day as a digital ambassador?
So with my role at the One campaign, a lot of what I do is blog writing and a little bit of social media work. And so I've really been fascinated in the storytelling flash talks and forums. I think it's really relevant not only to the work that I do, but to nonprofit organizations in general of how do we get stories across. So a lot of my planning for the day has been around hearing how other people tackle that challenge of how do we tell stories and how do we get the messages across that are really vital to be talking about.
Yeah, and that track is called Storytelling to Movement Building. So it's really talking about how do you just not create a hashtag, but how do you make it something that people really get behind? So looking at things like Me Too, looking at things like poverty is sexist, and maybe Devex World one day. So really come together and kind of figuring out how to make something become something that becomes part of your everyday life. So that's definitely what we're talking about in there. And I think for the session, they were using the example of education. How do you make education something that is really awesome? And I think one does a lot of stuff around education as well.
Yes, a lot of stuff around education. One of our past movements, Girls Count, was specifically about girls' education, and it's a constant mission for us to see how do we get the 130 million girls who are not in school back into school. How do we enhance access to education so that everybody has an equal chance at receiving an education?
Yeah, and you guys have some pretty cool celebrity ambassadors who are kind of behind that. I think Michelle Obama's used that hashtag, a bunch of other celebrities. So how can people be following you out throughout the day on social media? Where can they find some of the stuff that you're posting today?
So the One Campaign's Twitter it's at One Campaign.
Okay.
Easy enough to remember.
Yeah.
There will be some posts on there about Devex World, and in the next coming couple of weeks, the blog will go up on our US blog website.
Okay.
And I think that will also go on social media. So if you follow the One Campaign on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, you'll get to see a lot of our content in general. Like, if you want to follow us, I'm not going to stop anyone from doing that.
All right. So before we leave, maybe we can give some of the folks that are here or who are online some social media tips. What are kind of like your 3 top social media tips for people who are just starting out?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Actually, what's your favorite social tool to begin with, your social platform?
I think Twitter is a great social platform. I think it's a good way of getting, with the character limit, though some people don't.
Yeah, it's 240 now. It expanded,
yeah,
right?
it expanded.
140 to 240. You have a lot more room to type.
Yeah, a lot more room to work with. I like Twitter because it's a great way of sharing a mix of content, of having, very quick messages, but also having photos, videos. I think it's a really excellent tool, and seeing what's trending on Twitter.
Yes, and we are trending. Devex World is trending. We're like number 3, I think. Let's see. We were number 3 this afternoon. Right after Capitals Pride. I mean, we have a lot to compete with today in DC, but we're doing pretty well.
Capitals Pride is hard to beat, but
and Trump.
We're up there.
Trump is hard to beat as well. So the fact that we're number 3 is pretty good. What's some other tips that you have?
I'm always a fan of looking at not only what's trending on Twitter, but what's trending in the news. There's so much information out there and new things that are developing across the world every day, and I think having access to that information and keeping up with new developments is really important when it comes to social media posting, because if you have an understanding of all these various issues, it's going to translate to how your posts come out. I think just that awareness is really, really useful.
Yeah, and for brands and for organizations, it's super useful to even know what to get onto. So if there's a meme that you need to follow, something else to follow, you definitely need to kind of know. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely having you, and make sure that you're following Sadof and you're following all the other digital ambassadors. Again, my name is Carine Umuhumuza, and thank you for joining us for this from the Content Studio.